Nothing beats a heap of home-cooked fried chicken. And if you avoid these mistakes, your chicken will be finger-licking good every single time. When your nighttime dinner routine gets going, you might be tempted to pull your chicken from the fridge and throw it straight into the pan. However, you'll need to resist this temptation if you want good, evenly cooked fried chicken. Now, you don't need to achieve an epic balance in your Jedi-level cooking skills in order to cook your chicken evenly inside and out.
Do or do not. There is no try.
No, the balance comes from starting with near room temperature chicken. If you take your chicken straight from the fridge, it's likely to cook unevenly. The exterior of the chicken takes on a nice doomsday-level crispiness, while the interior is practically still clucking. This happens because chilled chicken cools down the cooking oil, meaning the oil has to work harder to cook the chicken, and the meat becomes uneven as a result. This also opens up the possibility that the cooking process won't fully kill off any harmful bacteria in the meat. Your chicken benefits from an aesthetic point of view too. The coating of flour or batter covers the chicken more uniformly when you start with room temperature chicken. This also means the chicken will crisp better. And if your fried chicken ain't crisp, it ain't fried chicken. People tend to throw too much chicken in the pan for many different reasons. Maybe the pan is too small. Maybe you've got lots of people to feed. Maybe you've convinced the people at Guinness World Records you can cook 300 pieces of chicken in 2 minutes. Either way, if you're shallow frying your chicken, you need to stop doing this. Overcrowd that pan, and you're likely to get undercooked chicken as a result. Fried chicken requires a bit of wing room, so to speak, so that the heat doesn't linger underneath the bird in the pan. If this happens, steam will rise and become trapped under the pieces of chicken, essentially poaching the meat in the process. Keeping the chicken well separated encourages airflow and sets off the browning effects of the Maillard reaction, which is the chemical response in cooking that alters the texture and taste of your food. If you really do need to cook a large number of chicken pieces in one sitting, cook them in batches and use a foil tent or the oven to keep them warm until they're ready. Conventional fried chicken wisdom tells you that it's best to add your seasonings to the flour before you fry the chicken. Admittedly, in some cases, this is probably true, but it's not always the best idea. Most home gourmands love to add copious amounts of their own special seasoning mix, including kosher salt, Hungarian paprika, garlic, and cayenne pepper, which they sprinkle on their marinated chicken. The seasoning mix usually gets added to the flour. That's not unusual. However, adding the seasoning to the flour instead of adding it directly to the marinated chicken may be a mistake in some instances. This is because certain seasonings like paprika burn during the cooking process if you add them to the flour. Adding delicate seasonings directly onto the chicken and then hiding them under the flour protects them from the heat of the cooking process. This seasoning method still allows you to season both the chicken and the flour, but without burning anything. Seasoning the flour can also waste a lot of seasoning, so you'll likely be saving in the long run. Unless you use an air fryer, you're likely to use some type of cooking oil to make fried chicken. Take note though, whatever oil is chosen for the task must be warmed up correctly. In essence, you should not start cooking until the oil reaches 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Because refined peanut and corn oils have smoke points of around 450 degrees Fahrenheit, they're often chosen as the go-to oils for frying chicken. The smoke point can't be forgotten if you want the perfect chicken. If you cook the chicken at too high a temperature or use an oil that has a low smoke point, the chicken will get scorched. On the flip side, oil that's too tepid results in greasy fried chicken because the chicken wallows in the grease without cooking fully. Of course, the best way to ensure that the oil is hot enough is to utilize a thermometer, particularly if you don't have enough cooking experience to be able to tell by instinct. If you're not sure, don't risk it. Know what's delicious? Fried chicken. Know what isn't? Salmonella.
I was dying earlier today, and then I died. Now I'm dead.
If you know anything about food, then you almost certainly know that eating raw chicken is basically a one-way ticket to Barf Town. Fortunately, using a meat thermometer when you cook keeps these microscopic nasties at bay, leaving you to enjoy a plate of fried chicken with no ill effects. Here's an idea though, use 2 thermometers. With one thermometer, you can get a read on the temperature of the oil, with the other, you can check the chicken's temperature. This allows you to get an accurate reading on each because the temperature read on the meat won't affect the temperature read on the oil, or vice versa. When you measure the oil's temperature, immerse the thermometer into the oil until it reaches 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't start cooking before that temp reads on your thermometer, and don't let it get much higher than that once you reach it. As for the meat, make sure to poke the meat thermometer into the thickest and deepest part of the meat. Be careful to avoid the bone and the meat right on the bone, or you could end up with a false read. Once the chicken itself hits 165 degrees, it's ready to eat. Assuming you're shallow frying your chicken, you need to turn it over and over repeatedly during the cooking process. It really isn't any harder than that, although it's absolutely necessary if you want to cook edible chicken. You need that chicken to be cooked thoroughly on the inside but not burned on the outside. And acquiring this state of doneness requires a great deal of care. However, the method for achieving this is actually relatively simple, despite the time it requires from you. After the oil heats up, place the chicken in the oil and allow it to brown for 5 or 6 minutes. Once it browns on the outside, it needs to be turned and turned and turned again every couple of minutes until the chicken is cooked evenly, inside and out. It's important to note, too, that light meat and dark meat cook at different rates, which means that even if you turn all the chicken in the pan at the same time, some pieces, like the thighs, will take longer to cook regardless. Keep this in mind to avoid unnecessary frustration as you cook, and to ensure that pieces that cook quicker don't get burned. Tenderizing your chicken before you cook it makes for chicken that's moist, easy to eat, and delicious if you use the right marinade. There's no need to overthink how to do this, however. A simple chicken marinade is often the best marinade. And fortunately, tradition has given us one of the simplest and best: buttermilk. You may not be a fan of buttermilk's taste straight out of the jug, but you'll probably like what a buttermilk marinade does for your fried chicken. Buttermilk has acids in it that break down the meat, making it tender and tasty even without adding any kind of other seasonings. However, if you'd like to go to town on your chicken, you can add other ingredients such as paprika, garlic, sriracha, or any other suitable spices. Allow your chicken to sit in the marinade for at least 2 hours before cooking, though overnight is also okay. The longer it remains in the marinade, the more the meat tenderizes. But don't overdo it, as the meat will eventually break down if it marinates too long. Making a platter of greasy fried chicken is something of a rite of passage for most novice cooks. But there comes a point when you get truly sick of the grease. When that time comes, it's useful to remember that several factors lead to greasy fried chicken. One of these factors is the excess moisture on the chicken. Moisture creates steam in the pan and prevents the Maillard reaction from occurring. This is because the moisture lowers the oil's temperature, which puts the kibosh on the crispy golden fried chicken you were aiming for. This in turn allows the grease to soak into the flour coating, turning the chicken greasy instead of crispy. Aside from patting the chicken dry with a paper towel during prep to prevent excess moisture, it's possible to add ingredients such as cornstarch to the flour mixture to soak up any extra moisture. You'll also end up with greasy chicken if you use the wrong coating. Flour alone may work fine in many instances, but adding cornstarch gives you extra insurance against the grease spill by preventing your chicken from steaming. Finally, not giving the chicken elbow room in the pan is another common cause of greasiness, as overcrowding also causes excess steam in the pan. Bacon grease, of all things, can be the unexpected secret ingredient in your fried chicken, if you know how to work with it. At 400 degrees, bacon grease has a smoke point that's nearly as high as peanut oil. This means that you can give your fried chicken a bacony flavor by employing a peanut oil bacon grease combination. To do this, simply cook up a pan of bacon, then strain any extra bacon bits out of the remaining grease. Pour the peanut oil into the skillet and add in your leftover bacon grease. Heat it up using a thermometer to ensure that the mixture reaches 350 degrees Fahrenheit, but not much more than that. Because bacon grease has a slightly lower smoke point than peanut oil, your oil-grease mixture will start smoking sooner than you might expect. Keep an eye on the temperature as you cook, adjusting the heat so that it stays hot enough to cook the chicken, but not so hot that the smoke point is activated. Et voila! A heavenly hybrid of bacon and chicken.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Cooking for a crowd presents home chefs with something of a conundrum. What can you cook that satisfies everyone's different taste preferences? Well, if chicken's on the menu, then you'll want to make sure you use as much of the bird as you can. Why? Cooking the whole chicken uses both light and dark meat, different sized pieces, and different textures, ensuring there's something for everyone at the table. Some home chefs avoid cooking any part of the chicken aside from the legs, because the cooking times for the light and dark meat differ so much. However, it's possible to employ different cooking strategies to ensure every piece gets cooked properly, light or dark. Some home gourmands cook the light and dark meats separately, while others position the chicken in the pan in such a way so as to ensure that all the pieces are cooked evenly. In the latter case, you just need to position certain parts of the chicken in the pan's hot spot. This is in the middle of the pan, right above the burner. The pieces that need more cooking time, like the thighs, go there. As a bonus, home cooks who cut up their own chickens instead of buying separate parts usually save money, as they're not paying for the process of butchering the bird. It also gives them the chicken's backbone, which they can make stocks for winter soup. Want your fried chicken to become the poultry equivalent of fine wine? All you need to do is let it sit for a few minutes after taking it out of the fryer. When you wait 5 to 10 minutes before eating it, the juices inside redistribute themselves and infuse your fried chicken with juiciness. If you could see inside the chicken's interior, you'd see the proteins tightening up during the cooking process and then relaxing again once it's off the fire. When the proteins relax, the juices are redistributed. If you don't wait, all the juices rush out, ending up in a pool beneath the meat. The cooking process also continues once the meat is taken out of the pan, so this helps to cook the meat in its thickest areas.